Regional School Committee. Today is Tuesday, October 6th, 2024, and we are meeting in the Dover-Sherborn Middle School Library. The time is now 6:32 p.m. First on the agenda are community comments. I have one community comment that I will read on behalf of somebody who couldn't be here tonight, but do we have anyone on Zoom or in the audience with a community comment to share? Okay, excellent. So my community comment comes from Ryan and Jennifer Devon of Woodland Street, and it's with respect to the upcoming ballot question regarding the MCAS test as a graduation requirement. Jennifer Devon said, as a business owner and former school committee member, I've seen firsthand the skills our students need to thrive, both in the classroom and in the workforce. We don't just need employees who can pass a test, we need creative problem solvers, critical thinkers, and collaborators. The MCAS requirement is holding our students back from developing these essential skills, and eliminating it is crucial to ensuring our children are truly prepared to succeed in an ever-changing economy and contribute to the future of Massachusetts. This is why I, Jennifer Devon, am urging everyone to vote yes on question 2. And as part of a co-signed letter from 20 local business owners, I have a quick addition to read. To the people of Massachusetts and the leaders of our Commonwealth. As civic and business leaders committed to building an equitable and prosperous Commonwealth, we support ending the use of a single high-stakes test to determine whether or not high school seniors receive a diploma. As we seek the next generation of talent to shape our businesses, nonprofits, and other vital institutions, we know that the skills we need in the workforce of tomorrow cannot be measured by a single test. We also know that high-stakes standardized tests have a disproportionately negative impact on Black, Latinx, low-income, and English language learning students. Replacing the MCAS as a graduation requirement with the requirement that students demonstrate their mastery of a state standards through coursework will give us a more accurate measure of their skills, competencies, and knowledge. It would also support teaching strategies that foster the critical thinking, cultural competency, teamwork, and creative skills that are of the core skills needed to contribute to the civic, cultural, and economic vitality of the Commonwealth. Well-educated and well-rounded people are the core of the Massachusetts economy. Replacing the MCAS graduation requirement with a more accurate measure will build a more just and inclusive Commonwealth and a workforce that will fuel our collective success for years to come. And just as a reminder, you probably all got this in your mailbox, and this has more information on the question 2, regarding MCAS as a graduation requirement. Next on the agenda, we have superintendent's comments. And so Superintendent McCoy, take it away.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Before I begin, I just want to introduce Ms. Nikki Graziano, who is our DSEA representative here this evening. Welcome to our meeting. And Esther Mazzulli is joining us again this year as our student council rep. So Esther, is there anything that you'd like to share with us about the ongoings of DSHS?
Yeah, it's on my phone. Sorry. Okay, so we began in September to meet, and Mr. Hickey is retired, so now we have Ms. Chevery and Ms. Pisano who is running it, and we have 2 co-presidents. Yeah, because there usually was presidents and now vice presidents, but now they're just co-presidents. And what we're doing right now is Halloween week, like people get dressed up for fun, and then we have categories like funniest, creative, best group, scariest, and then we see everyone, and then we vote them, and then the winners get a bag of candy, which is really fun. And then after that, we'll do our annual Spirit Week rally, which is, this year we will not have a donor to give money to, because that's what the presidents decided. And basically it'll run from the 25th to the 31st of November. Each day will be based on whatever the people vote, because we're giving out now a Google form to the entire school to like pick which thing they want to do, which is more fun because they get to dress up every day. And then we count everyone up, and then total points. And then on Thursday we have the mural, which is just every grade creates a mural for their own grade, which is a really fun activity. And then at the end on Friday, they will be doing a turkey tug, basically teachers versus students, or like grades versus grades on like tug of war, and then that also points towards the rally, and then whoever has the most points will win the trophy, which is like 25 years old.
Nice.
Yeah, they'll get their like names engraved there.
That's great. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions from the committee?
I remember my kids being excited about the mural before, and if I remember correctly, is there like a theme to the mural each year?
Yeah, so the grade can decide on their own theme, I guess. Last year, our grade did Barbie and Oppenheimer,
Okay, all right.
which was really fun. We got second place.
Nice.
And then this year, we don't know.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. And you're, again, welcome to stay if you'd like, but we know how busy your schedule is. So.
I'm probably going to stay for like a while today.
Great.
Perfect.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, then you're staying around for financial reports.
I have a few more things.
Oh, you do? Sorry, yes.
Yep,
all
that's
right.
fine.
Perfect.
So just some general updates. Thank you. The clicker here. So thank you to our middle and high school principals and educators for opening their doors and having our parents come in for the open houses. I was not able to be here for the middle school open house because I was traveling, but I was here for the high school open house, and lots of great feedback overall in terms of meeting the new educators and having parent and student tables available at the entrances to kind of promote some of the additional work that we're doing as a district. So thank you. And thank you to our educators for then sharing out their presentations and PowerPoints afterwards for people who weren't able to make it. Last Friday, we hosted our 5th biannual Arts Homecoming. So Mr. Darren Beck is a teacher at the high school and is a graduate of Dover-Sherborn High School. He is also an artist. He sings and is quite good at it. And so he brings back alumni who are in the arts, whether it's theater, music, artistic work, and has them meet with the students throughout the day. They actually go to both elementary schools, participate in Pine Hills All-School Meeting, then they visit classes at the middle school and high school to share their experiences going through Dover-Sherborn High School and how they either do music full-time or in drama and art full-time now, or still find time to incorporate it into their lives as part of their joy and their hobbies. And at the end of the day, they all gather in the high school library, and students who are interested in hearing more from them can come down and ask questions. And I just think it's a great opportunity. We often, throughout the regular academic year, highlight our alumni who come back, who are in English and math and science. But this is a great time to really focus on the arts, which sometimes don't get as much attention as they deserve. So thank you to Darren and all the teachers who made that happen, and for our 19 alumni for coming back. Same day, earlier on in the day, Denny and I went to the Metco retreat with Miss Moni Marshall-Beal, our Metco director. And it was an opportunity for each of the Metco districts to come together with the Metco headquarters staff and talk about the vision for Metco 2.0, which we discussed last year, and kind of how we're each doing as a district in terms of aligning our strategic goals with the Metco goals. The day, I think the highlight was a panel. They had 4 districts who shared some of the best practices. So Concord Carlisle talked about some of the reporting mechanisms they're putting into place so that students can report bias incidents that they're witnessing or bullying. Wayland talked about their hiring practices that they're using to bring on a more diverse workforce that represents their student body. And Dover-Sherborn was represented not by Denny and myself, but by Miss Kate Potter and Miss Mila Clark, our parent liaisons for the Metco program, who presented to all of these superintendents and assistant superintendents and people in the room about the Family and Friends program and the work that we do to bridge our Boston students with our Dover and Sherborn students and their families as well. And I'll give you here. There they are, sitting up on the panel.
Nice job.
So many thanks,
Very efficient.
Kate, for representing Dover-Sherborn well. You and Mila really made us proud, and we're so thankful for the work that you do for the program.
It's my honor. Thank you.
And there are our alumni who came back for the arts. Other updates. So every fall, we bring in one of the attorneys from our legal firm to give us general updates about things that might have changed in the field relative to education. And after we got general updates, we really took some time to do some revisiting of the bullying law and our requirements as a school district, as well as Title IX and harassment. So we had a long retreat on that, and we're continuing to work as a district to make sure that our practices are aligned with the law and with each other, and that we're supporting our students and our faculty to the best of our ability. Student safety is also something that's important as we launch the school year. So each building, as you know, now has a building-based emergency team that meets at the beginning of the year and then after each of the drills to kind of debrief about what went well and what needs to be changed. We also have a district-wide emergency team, which is all the principals, all of central office, who come together to look at it more globally and share kind of patterns. And we invite our police chiefs to that meeting to meet with us. So we had that a few weeks ago. Coming out of that meeting, we decided that it was important for the police chiefs to go to each of the 4 buildings and offer a refresher to faculty about lockdown drills and answer any questions or concerns that they have. So I know the middle school just had theirs this morning. I'm sure the high school one is coming up. And then later this month, we'll be doing lockdown drills with our students in age-appropriate ways to make sure that everybody is reminded of the drills, just like we do fire drills and bus evacuation drills. And so that continues to be a priority for us. In addition, the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents has responded to the requests coming from Massachusetts superintendents about how we feel like we're doing this work and trying to find best practices in securing our facilities and training our staff and students in isolation. So they're offering a lot of resources and professional development for us. So just in the last 2 weeks, I've attended 2 webinars, one on strategies for enhanced school safety. And just the other day, Dawn joined me, as did our 2 chiefs, on preparing and ensuring the safety of your students. Coming up, I have responding to and investigating bomb threats and swatting hoaxes. And then later on, this month, enhancing school safety and security, federal resources to protect the K-12 community. So we continue to learn from each other, and I'm finding that this is great because it's taking what could be very overwhelming amount of research and brochures and webinars and products and saying this is really what you need to do as a K-12 district, and this is how we can move forward. So grateful for that opportunity. And MCAS scores have been released. Our school leaders and our teachers are analyzing the data. So when we come together in November as a regional school committee, Denny and I will be giving some highlights of overall trends, what we could learn and do differently or better, and what students are excelling and where we might need to support additional kids. So more to come on that. I've seen our photos. And then I just wanted to give you a couple updates about the goals that I set both for the district and for myself. So in terms of best practices to date, we have identified the 9 best practices. You've been hearing about them for the last few years. At this point, we've taken each of the best practices, whether it's collaboration or communication and critical thinking, and worked with our educators to say, okay, what does individualization or what does critical thinking look like in the classroom? And we're using that so that educators can align their goals with that. We're using that for observations. So those have been identified. We are focusing our classroom observations on those 9 best practices. So as Denny and I work with our principals to visit classrooms, we're looking for collaboration, relevance, equitable access to all of those things. And we are working with our other evaluators and department chairs who do classroom observations as well to be looking for those 9 best practices. So we're all focused on the same thing and giving teachers feedback to grow in those areas. And we're also starting to calibrate our observations. So just this morning, Denny and I met with the high school department chairs to look at some sample observations and kind of what kind of feedback we're looking for. What are you looking for when you're in a classroom? And then how do you give constructive feedback to not only show what our educators are doing really well in, but how they can continue to grow, that since we all try to adopt a growth mindset as a district. Student voice. So educators at both middle and high school have had a chance on the early release day to go through the challenge success data and look at trends around homework and expectations and student engagement, and kind of internalize that as they continue to make decisions about their teaching and learning as the year goes on. We're currently recruiting students for both the Superintendent Advisory Council. We're hoping to have 4 students each from grades 6 through 12. And we have a number of applicants already, so Jenny and I will start to go through that. We're enlisting students to host a teacher for the day, to shadow them. So we sent out a request and said, we're going to need about 100. And just within 24 hours, we already have 60 students who are willing to have a teacher shadow them and follow their schedule for the day and experience what it's like to be a Dover-Sherborn student. So super excited about that. And then we are meeting with Challenge Success, and the leaders of Challenge Success are parent leaders, including Jennifer Debon and Hessie Sheldon, next week to talk about how to launch the I Wish campaign, which again is an opportunity for students to say, I wish my parents knew how hard I worked, or I wish my parents knew how much I appreciated them, or I wish my parents knew that I really hate piano. And also the opportunity to say, I wish my teachers knew that, I love this class, or that I don't like, to be cold called, or how much stress I'm under because of the expectations at home. So another opportunity to get student voice a little bit more anonymously. Streamlined communication. So we've been talking about this. We've launched Parent Square with educators and parents. And so far, lots of great success. At the middle school, we're up to 65% of parents who have downloaded the app. What I can't put my fingers on, because it doesn't show it on the dashboard, is how many people are using it through their laptops or their desktops. So that's just with the app. I'm assuming some log on to parentsquare.com as well. And the question that we received last time was, well, does that include, if a family has 2 caregivers, are you counting the 2? So yes. So of all the caregivers, primary, secondary, mom, dad, grandma, 65% of those who are listed in our student information system are using it at the middle school, and 54% at the high school. So that's great, and we'll continue to grow that through the help of Brandon Hall, who you met, our director of educational technology. We're providing ongoing support with videos and meetings. We now have our parent leaders. So our presidents of the CSA and Positive and FOPA now have access to Parent Square and can post as well. In fact, I just noticed that the CSA at Pine Hill has been very active today. I think they had 6 posts. They had a lot to say to cover what they've missed for the last few weeks. So our parent leaders are up and running. And so hopefully, again, this is an opportunity to streamline, for those of us on the receiving end of these emails, everything coming to one place. And I'm attending a workshop called Writing for Busy Readers. So knowing how busy our educators are and how busy our parents are and our caregivers, how can we write succinctly to get the important information out there in a way that is easy to read and palatable. So more to come on that. Student learning goal around giving feedback. Again, I mentioned our meeting with the department chairs this morning about how to support our educators in the classroom. We work as a leadership team with all the principals on refining our educator goals. The educator goals that they submit, which Jenny will be talking about in a few minutes, are due at the end of this month. So when educators submit their goals, how can we help them refine them so they're specific and measurable and actionable and time-oriented? And then Jenny and I continue to visit classes with our principals. And lastly, the professional practice goal that I've set this year is working with other superintendents to continue to network and learn how to communicate with stakeholders, navigate challenges. So I did travel to Chicago, as I mentioned, a couple weeks ago, and participated in the first training for the Leading Now cohort. And I got to meet superintendents from Oregon and California and Ohio. And it was excellent. It was just a great opportunity to hear about the similarities with all of our districts. I met a superintendent who is a superintendent and principal of a rural district in Oregon with 150 students total. So the challenges that she has in terms of getting students access to internships and getting them into college are different than what we have. But she's also working on student engagement, project-based learning, and those sorts of things. So, it was neat to share those conversations both formally during the day and then informally when we had dinners and evenings together. Through that Leading Now program, I've been assigned a coach. So you've met John Sills, who was my superintendent coach from Massachusetts. This is now a coach who is specialized in kind of the more strategic planning. So I'm excited to lean on her as we think about some of the work that we're trying to do in the district. I did have my first of my last year of my new superintendent induction program meeting. That's in person. The next couple are online. And through that process this year, it's really about taking turns bringing a problem of practice or something that we're struggling with to the table and getting feedback from the other superintendents in my cohort on how we might address that. And I love it because you give context, you lay out what you're struggling with, and then you kind of sit back while other people discuss it and you get ideas about what you could do differently. Always super helpful. In fact, Denny and I are always excited for like, which one should you take to the table, Beth? Because we've got a few. And those are my updates. So, Mr. Conklin.
Yep, so just some quick updates from teaching and learning. So at the beginning of the year, one of the things I try to do is meet with each high school department head and each middle school curriculum leader one-on-one. We talked about the work that departments did over the summer in relation to curriculum planning and instruction. We talked about how each department is going to be setting goals for the year. And then this year specifically, we have been discussing our December 2nd full PD Day. So every year so far that I've been here has had a different flavor. My first year we did a student panel, and then we did some workshops. Last year we talked about AI and had some workshops. This year, kind of responding to feedback from educators, at least at the secondary level, we're spending a lot of the time this year in departments. So I'm working with each department head and each curriculum leader to craft an agenda for their department that's going to meet the needs of their department. So the science department at the high school has different needs than the middle school social studies department. So we're really trying to respond to where the teachers are at, the growth and the things that they want to pursue this year. So that's been fun. Normally I have to plan like the whole day. This is just a little different, kind of working with all of these leaders to plan a bunch of different versions of that day for them and their departments. So those plans are coming into shape right now. Right now, for example, high school English and social studies are going to be working on AI prompt engineering. Our middle school science teachers are going to be working with the Wade Institute and thinking about more kind of phenomena-based science approaches and inquiry. So there's a lot of good stuff that is in the works on that. Some other teaching and learning updates. So our high school world language department has adopted a new platform called Extempore. In the past, to practice speaking, students or teachers would have to book the language lab at the high school classroom. You go into the desktops, you sit down with your headphones, and you record everything. And now we are stepping into the 21st century with this new program that enables this all to be mobile. So teachers can do it in their own classrooms. It can be done at home. So our world language department is working on that. And on the plus side, it freed up an extra classroom. So now the world language department has an extra classroom space. So I know that they are working really hard to adjust to that platform and to make sure that our students are really getting that practice with the speaking and the listening. And then our 6th and 7th grade social studies department is working on our pilot of the investigating history curriculum. So they've had a lot of planning days, PD. We're trying to support them in any ways that they need. Right now our 6th grade is wrapping up their first part of the unit, which looks at what are important turning points, like what constitutes a turning point in history, as they look at kind of early humans and what that development looked like. Our 7th grade is looking at Central and East Asia, and they're looking at ancient Harappan society, and they're pretending that they are curators of a museum, and they're selecting artifacts that they would put into that museum that best represent the society's achievements. So that kind of demonstrates the way that this curriculum is focusing on inquiry and is really student-centered and having students do a lot of critical thinking. So those are the big curriculum updates. And then this time of year, we're also having our educators work on their goals. So as a reminder, as part of our evaluation system, our staff, our educators, they do 2 goals. One is their student learning goal, which is something that they are going to do in their classroom with the hope of having an impact on student learning. And the second is a professional practice goal that is something related to their own professional development or something that they want to learn more about or something they want to implement in their practice. Some of them, they're just starting to trickle in because they're due next week. But these are some examples of things that have come in so far. So one of them is focused around our best practice of giving students voice and making sure that we're having student-led discussions, student-led tasks. You can see that there's another one here relating to relevance. So thinking about how we can use real-world scenarios, how we can draw upon our students' own backgrounds and their interests in order to make the content relevant for them. And we're using some beginning and end of the year surveys to measure those goals. A couple sample professional practice goals. So some of our educators are looking at that challenge success data, and they're going to be embarking upon the student shadowing and learning more about how we can further engage our students. You can see that one of the educators has a goal around co-teaching. So this is something that we've expanded more at the middle school and the high school. So co-teaching with a content area teacher and a special educator to give more support to our students. So that is one of the goals, to learn more about co-teaching, to reflect with co-teaching pairs. And you can see there's another goal about shadowing 2 educators from other departments to understand our multilingual language learners better and to get a broader perspective on the students and what they go through every day. So those are some of the samples of the goals. And then, as Superintendent McCoy mentioned, our principals, building leaders, department heads have meetings with educators over the next couple weeks. They talk through these goals, make some revisions on them, and then everybody's off and running. And at the end of the year, they discuss them again and see if how the progress that our educators have made on meeting these goals.
Thank you. You guys, it's like you just came back from college, and I'm asking, how was it? I mean, there was a lot packed in there, and I took a bunch of notes because there are a few things I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to comment on that. I want to hear from anyone else or anything first, or? Okay, back to school nights were great. Both of them. I went to the middle school and the high school. Weather was great. It was great to see people in there. And I think what I really felt was that across the board, the teachers were demonstrating not only, content knowledge and ability to manage that in the classroom, but really to think about how to make kids appreciate the moment of shared learning space and really grow as individuals and as part of a community, and to push themselves and show that degree of openness to kind of engage in critical thinking and tough dialogue. And I really couldn't be prouder from what I've seen that night, both nights. And the other thing, the music thing. So I didn't know that 19 alumni came back for that. I knew Mr. Dupre had a music guy come in, and the guy got paid actually to do music. And so this is what I talked about with my 8th grader. But that registered with him. And I can't imagine how many other kids, for them to see adults in the community who have come through this system and are now doing fantastic things with something they love. I think that's a great opportunity, and we'd love to see. I know you have more of that in other fields. It's great to see it in the arts and to see what other opportunities exist. So let's zip it now. Thanks. All right, yeah. Wait. Thanks for the updates. There's a lot of great things happening. Next, as promised, we do have the financial reports.
I feel like we should switch the agenda and let me go first. Because I always just feel like it's such a downer. So I've got a bunch of numbers for you.
Yeah.
But this is how you support all this work.
I know.
That's right. It wouldn't happen without...
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
So first report is your warrant report, which is just your monthly report of all the warrants that we have processed since your last meeting. And I delivered Colleen some homework for her to look at and review and sign on your behalf. It's sort of exciting to sort of see putting the numbers together when we come back from school to see where we are. And so that's what September 30th reports are. We're not quite there, but it gives you a snapshot. There's still a lot of school to be had, but it always makes me feel good that I don't see that much red when we're here right now. So on the revenue side, is good news. As you know, we build our budget using the governor's Chapter 70 number. And so when the final cherry sheets were issued in July, we did see an increase in our Chapter 70, and that was mainly from the different reiterations of the budget going through in a higher minimum per pupil aid coming our way, because that's really the only way we see increases, because so much of our foundation budget is actually funded by our taxpayers. But we did see a little bit of an increase there, so we'll carry that through. Know that that can fluctuate, because what also goes out into our Chapter 70 are any students who go to charter schools or school choice schools, and that data hasn't been collected yet. They haven't taken their first census, so the numbers that are built into our revenues right now is really based on our census from last year. So sometimes, I come and I say there's been an impact. So we'll know more about that in December. But still good news on that. And obviously, we have been conservative when we've budgeted for bank interest, just because we don't know what's going to happen to rates. But we are going to probably see another very favorable increase in interest income. And just keep in mind that any revenue variances that are positive that we see, we will build into fiscal year 26 budget to give that credit back to the towns and lower their assessments. On the expense side, I know there's a lot of numbers on this page, and I always look at it in two sections. So the salaries, we've encumbered almost all the salaries of staff for the school year. The one big piece that hasn't been encumbered are spring coaches. So when you look at athletics and you see like 100,000, that's because the spring coaches haven't been encumbered yet. Keep in mind that our substitutes, we're just starting the year, overtime for our custodians. So those are some of the positive variants that you see that will dwindle down as the year goes on. Where we do have some activity to report to you, and I've sort of summarized our post-budget staffing updates. A lot of them are tweaks. They're small FTE adjustments for once we know what student base is going to be, we have to make changes for. For example, we did add a 0.2 FTE English learner position at the middle school based on the population. We added a little bit of a wellness educator position at the middle school to cover some of the new curriculum that they want to include, and it was small enough that we could cover that. We've increased occupational therapy by 0.2 because of the student needs. So there's small little tweaks that we do, and in most cases there is a employee already either working in the district or someone who wasn't full-time who's adding that on. So we're not bringing on a new person, we're just bringing on that they might have a little bit more of an FTE, and that's an important point to make just because we're not adding a person who's going to also have potential benefits to it. So I'd like to highlight that. On the larger side, we've talked about this last year, we had already built into our budget the human resource director position. And as you know, we sort of moved in a different direction in March, right after the budget was approved. So that is sitting in the budget and will be adjusted for fiscal year 26. But I will put that caveat in that we have, the central office has been working on ways to bring in that expertise in other ways. So we have some outside consultants. We've hired another firm that helps us do our annual training. So that is actually smart dollars for us. And so we will build those into our budget for fiscal year 26. And you'll typically see those in our superintendent office related expenses. So as we progress through the year, you're probably going to see those maybe go a little bit in the red, but know that we are building the salaries. We're taking salaries from the HR position to sort of cover that. And we will have that more fleshed out, hopefully in December. And the other big change was that when we looked at our student cohort for this coming year, we were able to eliminate a 1.0 special education teacher at the middle school. And so that actually also happened post-budget. I will say that that's a constantly changing factor, so it may or may not be a position that we can reduce in fiscal year 26, but time will tell. But that is another large piece of some of the salary savings that you are seeing. So if you strip out everything that could still potentially be incurred, I think we can estimate at this point of at least $200,000 in positive salary variance for fiscal year 25. Don't hold me to that, but that's so just so you can take that larger number of like 694 and get a feel of like what will be. And I know that number might be a little higher. What's also not encumbered here is we have 1 or 2 EA positions still open. So those dollars are not allocated right now. And we did move one position that was in the budget over to the Title I grant. So that is savings. And we don't know if we'll continue that, but that's something that's happening for this fiscal year. The other side of the budget's expenditures, is way too early to start talking about those categories. We have encumbered transportation. The two other big numbers that still need to be encumbered that we'll work on in the following month is our health insurance and utilities. But other than that, except for we have 2 red numbers. One is special ed services and supplies, and that is really based on the needs of the current cohort of students. There's some additional outside services that are required, so we are seeing that over what we had budgeted. And the other thing is our other non-employee insurance. So we did get quite an increase in our property insurance based on the large claim that we had in here for the flood. our deductible went up to $10,000 and our rate went up 12%. That was a number that we didn't know when we built the budget, but that was brought to us in April. We understand that, and hopefully our loss occurrence experience will go down, and we'll see over time a decrease in that. But we had over $1 million claim from the middle school flood. So that's sort of, as you know, at home when that happens, that's sort of what happened here. So that is one red number that I can explain to you. Any questions on the operating statements?
I have a question.
Yes.
So you talked about this a little bit, the human resource director position.
Mm-hmm.
Are we no longer looking to fill that role? I know, we tested that out last year, or are we feeling like those needs are being met through the different groups that you mentioned?
I think we're still sort of exploring what we need. I think adding a body wasn't exactly what we needed, and I think that we're finding that some of the expertise that we need, we can outsource, and so you draw upon that when you need it versus having someone sitting there and paying for it. I don't think that we have. So if you recall, we joined forces with the town of Dover to do this. If we post something on our own, that's something maybe a part-time or something that could be an option. So we're just sitting back and seeing how it works. I mean, I think we had a fairly good process when we were starting. I think it's just some of those hard questions that come up that we don't deal with every day that we need help with. And so having someone on retainer who has that experience that we could reach out to is worked well. So I think we're just going to experiment a little bit more and figure out like what fits for us. We have a lot of expertise in the office in different positions. And so I think we're still just trying to figure out which way to go.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think that any of the deficiencies that were noted in some of those earlier reports, we've been able to, to rectify or fix in another way.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Thanks for that explanation. That was my question as well. And I think, Don, in general, I feel like you do such a nice job understanding and explaining the forces that shape a budget. And as a system, any system evolves in ways that we can sometimes predict and sometimes we don't. And just to know that, you're still trying to think about the best fit for where we're at right now, and also we're fully aware that you're able to look a little forward and understand the past, and those are great in terms of giving us, I'd say, comfort in knowing that this is a well-managed district and we can see it in the numbers and in everything you say. So thanks.
Thank you. And it's it's our executive team. We're sort of like the house of everything. So we are all working. We meet every week and talk about what we need. So I think that we have 2 more months to sort of figure that out. But I don't feel that we're putting the district at risk in any way in not having this position filled at this point.
Thank you.
So just a couple other things on fiscal year. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sure.
Yep.
Last time at the end of the meeting, I think we talked about the turf field and track being done by.
Yeah, we'll go. That's next. Keep up. Got a lot of reports tonight.
All right, sorry.
Yeah. So just to wrap up fiscal year 24, since we last met, our excess and deficiency was certified. It was actually certified on Friday. And so the certification amount came in at $796,185, which is 2.76%. Keep in mind that we knew that was going to be low because of the money that we used for to help fund the gap for the rooftop units, and that the school committee policy, just to refresh your memory, is recommendation of 3 to 4%. So we're just slightly under that. And we will see how that works into the budget. Again, as you know, we've had pressure from some of the member towns that we have too much E&D, so I feel like we're maybe at a good spot right now, being under 3%, that this might be a number that they're more comfortable with. So I think that serves purpose to be a little bit lower, but also I think that might meet their needs, and they said they'd always step up to the plate for whatever we needed, so we'll play that out for a little bit. Okay, so that is the fiscal year 25 monthly update. The next thing I wanted to touch upon was just sort of an update on our capital projects. So we're sort of looking at tonight sort of the projects that are currently open, and then doing a 5-year look back at the projects that took place, but also how they were funded. And this sort of sets up our discussion too for when we start talking about the fiscal year 26 capital plan. And I think that some of the questions that we were getting from the towns too sort of prompted me to put this together for you. So let's just quickly just run through the current projects that are still open. We are 98% complete with the bleacher and press box project. There's one last step that we just need to complete before we get our permanent certificate of occupancy. We are shooting for sort of a official opening on October 25th. And at that time, we'd like to recognize our 3 major donors, which is the Mudge Foundation, the Dover-Sherborn Boosters, and the Dover-Sherborn Cable TV. The filming is already taking place in the press box. It's sort of exciting. We're finishing up a little bit of the electrical work, so the huddle camera can be mounted, and then we'll have electrical power up on sort of the rooftop there for better filming. So I think it's the soft opening has helped. We're sort of working out the kinks. But if you've had an opportunity to attend one of the games, I think it's serving the public well, and I think it sort of definitely elevates much better from where we were. And I should do a before and after picture, because the state of the fan size bleachers when we started this project was pretty sad. So we're excited about that. The other 2 projects, or the other project that's open is we have one last piece of the Lindquist ductwork. I know that's not an exciting project, but as you know, that was one of the projects that we had to ask for additional funding from last year because we took the insulation off and we had a lot of rotted ductwork. So that has all been replaced, and the only last piece we have to do is just to insulate that lower section, and we're currently working on scheduling that. And then the final open project is the big one, is the replacement of the rooftop unit. So that is scheduled for this summer. We were certainly surprised to find out that the units are already delivered and are under the supervision of our contractor. They were shocked. We were all shocked. We were very shocked because this was supposed to be a lead time of 32 weeks. They came in less than 12. So they don't know if they don't think that's an industry trend yet. It's definitely getting smaller. I'm working on another rooftop unit project, and they are telling me like 20 to 24 weeks. So I think for some reason we just hit a sweet spot. And I think it is because we are so far ahead of this that, and knowing that we're planning for the summer, we must have just hit a time where they could crank them all out. So they are Train, that is the company that manufactured. So they are there on site. We had our first kickoff meeting. It was interesting to have the first kickoff meeting for the meeting. They said, okay, it's already all here, and you owe us $1 million. But that is great news, because what it's going to allow us to do is, that was a little bit nerve-wracking of thinking about that we're basically taking all the air ventilation off of the high school this summer, and what happens if it's not fixed, ready to go when we open school. Knowing that all the equipment is here, we are arranging for the contractors to where they can, where we have days open, where they can come in after hours to start doing some of the prep work. There's a lot of electrical work to do. As you know, we're swapping out the gas for the electrification on a piece of it, so there is some internal electrical work to do, and then there's work they can do around the curbing. So we're going to get as much done during the school year, so that when school is out, the cranes will come, take off the old, put on the new. And so I think we all feel much more comfortable that we'll be ready in August of 2025 to open with all brand new equipment. And if you speak to the director of facilities, John Smith at the high school, you know this is much needed, because we are definitely band-aiding what we have right now. We've had a couple of hiccups this summer, those really hot days. It was really taxing on the equipment, but we really are holding off doing any repairs because this really doesn't make sense at this point. But we'll be looking forward to see. And if you look at them too, visually, they need to be replaced all around. So that is up and running. So that's great. So Kevin, to your point, we are starting to look at our fiscal year 26 capital, and the turf And track is our main project. And we're actually, I know you're going to join the subcommittee. We're looking, probably to send an email out this week that we're looking to do our first meeting as a subcommittee on October 23rd. Angie, I think that's, you're on that as well. So it's going to be a Zoom meeting so that we can capture everyone, but I'll get that information out, and we're going to start working on sort of the whole design process for that and getting the input. We've got 2 coaches on the committee. We're looking for 2 students, a member from Boosters, the athletic trainer who's right now the interim athletic director, John Smith, the principal, and myself, and our head grounds person. So we've got a good team, and we actually met as a sort of a steering committee last week to sort of get this up and running. So that's where we set the date. And that'll be more coming. You'll see that sort of really coming into play in December when I bring your capital plan to you. But just in a retrospect looking, and I know this is a lot of numbers, but this is our capital projects that we've done over the last 5 years. And you can see how much E&D we have used, which I think is a great use. We're taking excess operating surpluses and putting it back into the physical plant here. And so the ones that are in light blue are the ones where we actually had an IMA with the towns and where taxpayers contributed to that. So that was really the large restoration we did on the rooftops of Lindquist and Middle School. And then, of course, the rooftop units, they funded 1.2 of the project, where it ended up being about $2 million. So we were able to vote for additional E&D. And then if you recall, we had been holding the high school boiler project up in fiscal year 23, knowing that we had secured funding for that through E&D, but when we started doing the work, the engineers told us we had at least 10 more years left on those boilers. The on-site insight report had an estimated useful life less than what they deemed to be industry standard for that. So we had held on to that money knowing we would need it for the rooftops. And so we transferred that. That was a vote you took. And then the additional $500,000. So this is a nice, just little summary. It also shows you what investments we've made here at the region, and how we've really, I think, used our E&D to serve the taxpayers well by continuing to invest in our physical plants.
I had another quick question then.
Yeah.
So, this might not be the time or place, but so if they delivered these air conditioners,
Rooftop units, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
At what point does the manufacturer warranty start?
Not till it's installed.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so if it's damaged in the interim, who's responsible?
So they're currently being insured by the contractor.
Okay.
They're on their insurance. They're stored at a facility they're paying for, and they do this routinely.
Okay.
I will say it is costing them a little bit more because they're having to pay for the storage, but I think they get a peace of mind as well that it's there. So it's already had initial inspection, so there's not any damage apparent. We talked about that at the opening meeting to make sure that was the case. And they are packaged, secured well enough that there's not going to be any issues with where they are. Yeah, but it won't start until the warranty doesn't start until they do the installation.
Sure, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, Don. Next on the agenda, we have action items, which include, tonight we have a second read and a motion for approval of changes made to the middle school handbook. These items may require or involve further discussion, but first, should we hear from
Sarah Keegan here.
Yes.
Sure.
Thank you.
From budget to cell phones.
Yes, thank you.
Great topics. So yeah, the handbook language just really reflects us moving towards a yonder pouch system for students who do bring phones to school and smartwatches, to really have these devices locked up during the day. I think as we discussed last meeting, the question was, do we do a ban? Do we sort of do something? And I think there really are family needs to have these devices after school for communication. So this feels like a really good medium piece to it. We have a proposed timeline set up with the launch date being right after the Thanksgiving holiday. There's a lot of work to do between hopeful approval tonight and the launch. We've got some communications and an FAQ ready to go as well. But I think it will be a good, I think what's great is we've got some other middle schools, primarily in Newton, who are in their second year of this and have really, just praised the benefits of it. So, we're hopeful to move forward. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I know I've been deep in it, so I think, we sort of just sprinkled it last meeting. So happy to answer any questions that you may or may not have sort of after that initial meeting.
I did email all of you just before the meeting the FAQs and the timeline. I apologize that it wasn't included in the original packet, but we'll make sure it's added after tonight. So.
And let me just, because we haven't really talked about the sort of the financial side of this. So we are required to purchase all these up front. And so I think that initial purchase price is about $13,500, I believe.
Right around there.
So what we've decided to do is to run this activity through our building rental fund, because parking fees go through there. We can set up a little sub account within that fund. We have funds in there to be able to advance to purchase, and then the rental fees on the that we collect on an annual basis will go back to replenish those funds. So at some point it should hopefully break even, and we're just buying then what we need, and then the rents will pay. So it'll probably take us a couple of years, but they require you to purchase one for every student in your school, regardless if you're going to use them or not. So that's how financially we thought we would sort of set this up. So within a revolving fund, we'd make the purchase. The annual lease fee of $10 per student would then be collected and offset against that initial investment. And then we'll keep it to its own little sub account so we can see where we are, and we can report that to you as need be.
Can I ask a quick question? How do you know how the wear and tear on these things is? How long do they?
Ask that. How long do they?
How long do we expect them to?
Yeah, they seem, I've seen them and touched them. They're thick, they're tough. My expectation is for a few years, I think, until we sort of pay this back. But, if they are damaged or lost, we would do a replacement fee of $30. They're about $30 per pouch. So,
Right. Okay.
but my sense is as I said, Newton's sort of my go-to district, and they're in year 2 of students using them, and they purchase them for the students, so the students hold on to them for their duration of their middle school years, whereas we'll be sort of collecting and returning and using a number system. So
we estimated 3 years, which is why we took the 30 divided by 3 to do $10 a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We think it's smarter just to collect them at the end of the year and just then redistribute them versus worrying about what happens to them over the summer. So that's sort of, and we will find we're working with IT to be able to identify.
Yep.
So they'll have an asset, with sort of like an asset ID tag. And so they will be able to assign.
Oh, okay.
Like
to the
you'll
student.
know which student.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
yeah, one of we'll be getting the newer models because they've been out there for a while, and the newer models have a place for this to happen. So, schools that students get them and own them, for the duration, the kids will decorate them and things like that, but we won't be allowing that. So, yeah.
At least for this trial period.
Right.
And the idea is either you have the choice to either leave your phone at home or purchase or rent the. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. We're still going to really push for, if the student doesn't need it, to not have it.
Yeah.
We really want to normalize that it's that respect that folks do need them after school. So.
Has there been further discussion about this carrying over to the high school?
I think there's a discussion on sort of when do students start to learn how and when to use it, right? And is that high school? I think that's always the high school. I know that there's a few high schools that do. I think Brockton the whole school went to it, but I've seen sort of in my work that a lot of the high schools are doing what we already do in our school, which is the cell phone motels with the shoe holders. and really ensuring that students either put them in there. And I think that that's where the high school, most high schools are in that sort of frame of how are we teaching responsibility, how are we teaching responsible digital use and where and when, right? So I think that that's where that conversation is.
Yeah. When I meet with my Java-like groups, I was surprised at how many school districts don't yet have cell motels in their classrooms, and that we're ahead of the curve in Dover-Sherborn, so they're just catching up
had those.
in terms of wanting to do that. So that seems to be the way people are trending.
I spoke recently to a high school counselor who was saying at their school they had done the high school and it was a game changer, and there were kids playing chess in the middle of the school. They have this hour where they can kind of go to pick their lunch and then choose their activity, and they were playing chess. There was like a lot of talking and a lot of interaction, kids going to like different places to the ceramic studio, wherever, but it was opening up more of the activities for the kids, just naturally by way of having that distraction away. So anyway, I'm eager to see how it plays out.
I was wondering if by doing this for the middle school, we kind of reset their mindset when they go to high school to relearn those things that they would be doing without a cell phone. So it might be a positive thing for them, and we might see some good results when they are proceeding on high school.
Right. Yeah, I do think part of this is trying to teach some norms too, I think where this all started was our students go to DC, the 8th grade students go to DC with, it's a phone-free event, and they end up just feeling like that was a good decision, right? And kind of to what Colleen said, that, teachers just report conversations and laughter and, they're really engaged in the trip versus other middle schools that are down there with phones and sort of those it's a very different experience. And our students came back in May last year and said, we'd like our dance to be phone free. They sort of saw that social value and sort of recognized that, in 8th grade is, I think we've come far. We still have a lot of work to do with this with teens. I know our communities are engaging in the Anxious Generation book studies. So I think there's some great conversations happening around this, and this is a small thing that I feel we can do as a school to really help our students and help their learning and their social experience here at school. I can share that we've already had, a pretty good amount of phones that we've taken. Parents have had to come and pick them up. Students are finding space in the building to go use them in the bathrooms, and it's, they're supposed to be in their backpacks, but they're feeling the notifications in there, so it's just if we can take that away, I think it's just another extra level. So we'll see. I'm hopeful.
Thank you so much. This feels like age-appropriate guardrails too, and ultimately you do want. When they go off beyond high school, they're totally on their own. So the training and a little more, nuanced approach in high school feels also appropriate. And I think to me, I thought the fact that Newton opted in after trying it out for a year spoke volumes.
Right.
They figured out the logistics. I was wondering a bit about, just the logistics of locking and unlocking. And I see one thing here, just for quick feedback. It says once the pouch is closed, it locks. But I thought that it had to be locked by tapping in.
It doesn't. It seals once it's closed. So this will be a little change in our procedures administratively in the morning. Typically, one or both of us are out at the buses or up front. Once we start to launch, we'll be in the lobbies and we'll have to see students take out your phones, lock them, so it'll be what that system will look like. We'll have to really see how many students are in the pouch system. So that'll determine Tracy Sokolowski and I have already talked about potentially having like an 8th grade area where 8th graders come over, they show us that they're locking it, the 7th graders are here. We have far less 6th graders with devices right now, so that may be one system. So again, we have to wait and sort of see how many sort of buy into this and use this. But so it closes and they need the magnet to unlock it. So,
Thank you.
So, and one of the questions which I had a parent had said, hey, I hear they can buy these magnets on Amazon to unlock so I call up our Yonder, and he said, nope, the magnet is like proprietary to Yonder, and that you can't. It doesn't. Not any magnet. It really. They would have to do a lot of work. I'm not going to say what they'd have to do. They would have to do a lot of work to have that happen. So, but they're good questions and things that people have asked. So,
Yes.
you know.
Well, thanks again for that and the second read. So now, any more discussion? Great. May I have a motion to approve the updates made to the Dover-Sherborn Middle School Student Handbook?
Colleen Burt, so moved.
Colleen Burt. And may I have a second?
Kevin Cronin.
Kevin Cronin. Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Great. Thank you. Motion carries.
Now the real work begins for you.
I know. It is for sure additional work for us, but hopefully, and I'll be back in the spring, I'm sure, for a school improvement plan, and I'll give you a little report on that and keep you updated. So stay tuned.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
You're welcome to go.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Well, you could stay for consent items if you want. All right.
Sure. Yeah.
Next on the agenda are the consent items. I will read each one aloud to see if there are any questions or amendments. If in favor, the committee can approve all of the items with a single vote. I believe we have 5 items. Approval of the middle school field trip to Washington, D.C. And, approval of the districts and superintendent goals. Approval of responsible use agreement, the second read, which you just heard. Approval of the regional school committee minutes from September 10th. And approval of the FY25 grants. So we have paperwork there, but do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Kate Potter, so moved.
Kate Potter, thank you, Kate. And they have a second?
Colleen Burt, second.
Colleen Burt, thank you. Any further discussion? None? Alrighty, all in favor? Unanimous again. Okay, so the motions carry. The consent items are approved. Last, I believe, is it last? Oh no, we got a little more. Number 8, informational items. So in your packets, you see the October enrollment report, Dover School Committee minutes from June 4th, 2024, and the Sherborn School Committee minutes from 2024.
I could just add just 1 or 2 comments on the enrollment. Actually, our 3-year projection was 1,079 students, and we got 1,079 students. And keep in mind, too, that just for assessment purposes, it's not the October enrollment, it's the November 1st enrollment. So I always, just for anyone listening at home, on Sherborn Advisory or Dover Warrant, November 1st is what's in the regional agreement. There could be 1 or 2 shifts, but this, gives you a preview, but November 1st is really what drives the town assessments for the budget.
Okay.
The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, however, will use the October 1st enrollments for a lot of their decision making and reporting. So that's a difference between the state budget and how DESI sees things through grants and through data accountability versus our local budget, which is supported by our Dover and Sherborn taxpayers.
Okay, excellent. Thanks for that description. Is that always the breakdown for state and local? Just October, November, or depending?
Yeah, no, the state's always October. It's a big October.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the grants, foundation, everything is based on October 1st.
Okay.
The agreement that was written in 1954, for some reason, picked November 1st. So
all right.
it could be that October 1st wasn't at the level it is with the state right now.
Okay. Yep. Thanks. Okay. Well, our next meeting is on Tuesday, November 5th, 2024. You can get your voting done before you come here. Is there anything else that anyone wishes to add to the agenda for the November 5th meeting?
Just want to remind you that I'm not able to come that night.
Thank you. That's right.
Jenny and I will give an update on our MCAS analysis and any takeaways from that.
Perfect.
One quick thing before we close this. There was a little subcommittee thing from the high school PTO and the middle school PTO. They were wondering if they're okay to continue with the directory spot, because the reason asked on behalf of PTOs, if the district has an objection to the directory spot, it's our digital directory of course. The parent square does not include address info for the community. Both Chickering and Pine Hill are carrying on with directory spot. And we just need to know, as it is due to discontinue on the 11th of this month.
Yeah.
And we would like to not have an interruption in services if possible.
So we have our leadership team meeting tomorrow morning, and both Mr. Smith and Ms. Deborah Keegan have asked us to discuss that, just to make sure that we're uniform across all of our 4 schools and that parents have access to what they need. So we'll circle back with the positive and the PTO. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up. Thank you. So now our meeting has come to an end. It is 7:37 p.m. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, so moved. Thank you. And a second? Kevin,
I'll
you can
second,
read-
yeah.
All right, thanks.
You got it.
All in favor? Everyone wants to go. Perfect. Thank you.